Welcome everyone. College
Mhm.
admission is in United States are not as fair, straightforward as many people think. Welcome to Sikasem. Here we teach you how to dramatically improve the quality of your life. Patrick Befi, I'll let my guest introduce himself, not now though, but my guest is going to introduce himself. And here is High Life Radio. Like I was saying earlier on, college admission in the United States are not as fair or straightforward as many people think. You see, every year, thousands of students with excellent grades still receive rejections. Yes, that's when the confusion, frustration, and panic begins. Many parents believe that straight A's guarantee admission, but that belief is outdated. Some students think one perfect exam score will save them, and that's really true. Yes, you know, the competition today is brutal, global. You see, it's coming from all angles, not just United States. See, you're no longer competing with just students from just your school or your city, but it's coming from every angle of the world. You're competing from everybody over the world. So standing out is no longer an option. It is a survival. Blending in is the fastest way to get rejected. So if you're still thinking about just one, score will get you this, just good grades will get you there, it's going to be tough for you to get in. So colleges are not just looking for smart students, they are looking for interesting ones too. And I think we have to focus on that. They want stories, impact, leadership, and intuitive. They want to know who are beyond your card, not just the grades. Yet many applicants still submit boring, predictable applications. Hey, other families too, you know what they do? They just throw money in there, see if it's gonna work to get them somewhere. Yet this is why myth about US college admission refuse to die. So today we are going to cut through the noise and expose the truth. This conversation is honest, practical, and slightly uncomfortable. If it hits you so hard, yeah, it will be uncomfortable, but it's the truth. And if you want to stand out, instead of missing out, you need this. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us. And I think he's going to benefit at the end. So I'm going to bring uh, my boy here. Um, I, I want you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about you, and we will pick up from there.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Uncle Patrick. And I refer to you as Uncle because, well, as a sign of respect, of course, in our culture, but also because you're a very close family friend of ours. And so I'm very, very humbled and esteemed and grateful that you've allowed me to be on your broadcast today. And greetings, everyone. My name is Anthony, but for all intents and purposes, you can call me Tony. I actually work as an admissions officer at a highly selective Ivy League institution. And I graduated from that institution about 2 years ago, where I studied government education and human centered design. And now, as a admissions professional, I've had a couple years of experience now guiding folks through the college process and admitting students. And it's been a fruitful experience where I get to both travel to different schools, present in front of students and parents and counselors, but also review applications for students. And as Patrick was saying, it's often very complicated for parents and students to navigate the process. And so today, I really just hope to give an overview of the process and talk about some strategies you can use in order to stand out in it. But and I'm just really grateful to be able to be part of this. Just for a little bit more of my background, I'm currently based in New Jersey, but I also split time where my school is located. And being raised in a Christian household, I would also say that God is at the center of every one of the processes that I undertake. And with that all said, I'm really excited to just kind of jump into it and offer you all the details and secrets that I can.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So technically, I didn't want to say that at the beginning, but he's my nephew, right? Yeah. So, Tony, tell me this.
Mhm,
When we
yep,
say, I just want us to, go straight to this point.
mhm,
And,
mhm,
gradually, newcomers are trying to come in and, very soon, somewhere summer after that, you know,
mhm,
and this is the right time where people start scrambling about what to do and all that, you know. So
yeah,
when we say, or what does standing out really mean in US college admission beyond grades and
mhm,
test scores?
yeah, yeah. So when we say stand out, what we really mean is that you are positioned in such a way that your application is competitive, meaning that you have the grades, of course,
Hmm.
the
Yep.
test scores, of course, and you have additional things to offer as an applicant. This usually means some type of extracurricular activity and also some type of community contribution, as well as some type of, we call it sometimes passion, something you're interested in, that you're doing well at. And sometimes it also means, that you're getting awards and that you're getting recognitions and honors. And most importantly, especially for what we call highly selective schools. When you think about the 8 Ivy Leagues or the Ivy Plus, which include places like MIT or Stanford or UVA, um, these are places that are also looking for what we call fit. F as in fox, I as in indigenous, and
Mm.
T as in technical, fit, FIT.
Oh.
So this nebulous thing of fit is what a lot of applicants are often missing and what schools often want to see. That is this place right for you? So many students will apply to top schools in the United States, especially thinking that it's simply the test scores and the GPA that will get them in. But the
Mm.
reality is the reason why highly selective schools, these top schools are the top schools is because they only accept a limited number of people. They only accept a limited number of people because they only have a limited number of seats.
Mm.
And so the question becomes, if you have a lot of people who all have incredible test scores, incredible GPAs, and otherwise are all academically qualified, who actually gets in? This is where this question of fit comes in.
Mm.
And so, if I were to summarize this whole topic in a sentence, it would be that in order to stand out in college admissions, at least in the United States, your goal as an applicant is simply to make sure that you're qualified, that is, academically and strategically in terms of all your scores and tests and uh, GPA and all your data, and that you have good fit for the institution or institutions you're applying to. That is, you can confidently say that you belong there. But then the question becomes, how do you actually determine your fit, or how do you actually say to a college that I belong here? Well, that requires a little bit of research on your part. You have to understand what a college is actually looking for. And we can go into depth with this, but this is the general idea
Idea.
behind, I think, highly selective college admissions. You want to be both academically qualified and you want to have what we call fit.
Fit. Okay.
Mhm,
All right. So once again, the topic is stand out or miss out. U.S. college
mhm,
admissions explained. Patrick Beffy,
mhm,
Tony Fosu, and
mhm,
we are here discussing this because it's very important. And you are
mhm.
listening to High Life Radio and CKSM to be precise. So, Tony, tell me
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
Um, if so, sometimes people, okay, let me put it this way. Why do many, qualified students, like you're saying, you have to get all these test
Mhm,
scores, you have to make sure you get a grades and
mhm.
everything. You see, you can see sometimes you see this qualified students still get rejected from, top US college, despite having all strong academic records.
Mhm. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So I see this all the time where a student will have straight A's, they'll have a 4.0 GPA, where some
Mhm,
schools they have a 5.0 scale, they have like a 5.0 GPA. They've taken the classes that they can, and oftentimes, especially with our people, we love when our students are going for things in STEM. They're becoming engineers, software designers, and engineers, or doctors, or chemists, or pharmacists. We love when our children become doctors and engineers. And we also love when they become, lawyers as well, but we want them to make a lot of money and we want them to be in a prestigious career. So that often means a lot of STEM-based things. And so you're doing all the things you can to make sure you stand out as a STEM applicant. The unfortunate thing is that if grades alone could get you into school, like you see in educational systems and like China, for example, where like you take one test and that's the only thing you need to get into a school.
mhm,
Um, the unfortunate thing, at least with America, is that, or fortunate, depending on how you look at it, is that if you were going off test grades alone, you would look like almost every other applicant, especially to highly selective schools like the Ivy League or Ivy Plus, because all of these places are receiving thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of applications from high schoolers just like you that
mhm.
are succeeding, that are valedictorian, salutatorian, the first or second rank in their class, that, have all manner of like different awards and things. And so on paper, you all look exactly the same. And
Even though
so
your
that,
grades are, even though your
yeah,
grades are high.
yeah, even though your grades are high, if you're in the top 10% of your high school class, you might be paired with, dozens of other students who are also getting all A's on their report cards.
From okay.
And you know what's even sadder about it is that, getting an A grade is actually becoming way more common, especially in US high schools. And so the value of a grade tends to be slightly lower in context of an application, but it's still important. And I say this because if you get a failing grade or if you have failing grades, that's not a good look at all for colleges. In fact,
Mhm,
your chances are like next to none of getting accepted to a really highly selective school if you have grades below a C in any like class, because the reason why grades and test scores matter is because what we're looking for ultimately is academic preparedness
mhm,
and rigor, to see that you're actually going to be prepared to do the work. And this is also why places like Caltech and MIT and Harvard also like produce the most research, partially because they get a lot of federal research dollars, even with all the cuts that are going on right now, and partially because they take the best and the brightest students, and they have high grades, yes, but then they use that and they channel that into other pursuits. And we can talk a little bit more about these other pursuits too. But grades alone won't guarantee your spot in a college like this.
all right. So are you allowed
Mhm.
to mention the school that you are you allowed to do that or not?
Well, I could leave it under wraps. I mean, if you search my name,
Okay,
you'll find exactly
okay, all right, okay.
where I go.
Because you
So
yourself you
yeah,
went
yeah,
to a
yeah.
prestigious school, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to make
Mhm,
sure.
mhm,
I
mhm,
realized you didn't mention it
mhm,
when you were intro,
mhm,
doing your
mhm.
intro. So I was like, maybe
Yeah,
you're not allowed to say it. But I know you
yeah,
go to schools, other schools, to try to recruit.
yeah,
So
I
when you
do.
go there, you don't
Yeah.
still mention anything about the school you're recruiting for.
Oh, no, I absolutely do. In
Oh,
fact, I'm
okay.
actually, like, decked out in
Mm-hmm.
all of this material. I have, like, my official, like, badge,
Not
and
everything.
I carry, like, business cards, yeah, so, the school I work for, being in the Ivy League, we have a budget and we travel to different
Mm-hmm.
high schools,
Yeah.
and, at least in our office, we're all assigned to a region of the United States, and I just happen to be assigned to the Northeast. That's
Mm-hmm.
both where I travel to and then where I read applications from.
Okay.
And, if you're living in the Northeast, like New England, or even down to like the Mid-Atlantic area, you know of all of these fancy boarding schools, prep schools that are often private. Some of them are religious,
Mm-hmm.
and oftentimes they have big endowments. Lots big pots of money to support their students. And that means they're also very competitive. You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about prep schools. Think like if you're in Jersey, places like Pingree or Princeton Day or like the Hun School, or if you're like in like where you are, Patrick, like in the
Virginia,
DMV,
DMV.
DC, Maryland, Virginia area, you're thinking of places like St. Albans, like in DC,
Mm-hmm.
like these places that have resources to prepare their students well to excel at these schools. We travel to these schools all the time, but we also do travel to to public schools. I did a visit to the public school that I graduated from in New Jersey. And I'll see a side note here because I think the expectation for a lot of parents, when they're choosing a school for their kids is that, oh, I should send my child to the Catholic school because that's better, or
Mm-hmm.
to another private or independent school, like some of the ones that I mentioned. And I think it's important that we we qualify that idea, push back against it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, a Catholic school that you pay for might have some resources and education, but it's also placing your child in a more competitive setting where it's going to be harder for them to stand out because these schools have a reputation for producing top graduates that go to top schools, top colleges and universities. And so the money you're paying for your child to go there, it could benefit them in the long run, but you're also running that risk that they're going to a competitive school where it's going to be harder for them to stand out. And so I encourage you, if you have the option and it's like your public school is is reasonably like well endowed, like doors aren't falling off the place like I've seen at some schools I visited, it's worth considering because if you're at a public school, you might have less resources, but you also have a stronger chance, I think, of standing out. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that benefits you. Because at its core, for a lot of these top schools, it's Ivy Plus, they have what we call our process, how we read applications, we call it admissions. Holistic admissions, like whole, as in
Uh-huh.
whole person, and
Uh-huh.
listic, holistic
Holistic.
admissions. And the whole purpose of holistic admissions is that we look at the whole person. Grades and test scores, absolutely. But we also look at extracurricular activities. We look at your interest, what you want to major in, and we look at where you're coming from. We look at your high school. We look at, where your home is situated so that we understand were there things that you had to go through, challenges you had? Was your school, did your school offer the classes that you could take? And importantly, are you doing the best at the school you're at? Are you doing the best wherever you are? Because if you're not doing well where you are, how can we be sure that you're going to do well when you come to these top schools? Again, if you aren't doing well where you are, you're not going to give, the admissions offices the confidence that you're going to do well wherever you end up going. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's important that regardless of where you send your child to, that they're just going to do well there, and not just do well, that you're going to try to be as good as you can be. Because what you need ultimately is that you want good scores and test scores, and you want a high GPA, and you also want to take the hardest classes available to you. You want to max out your curriculum and make sure that everything you're doing is going to show how qualified you are.
Awesome, awesome. So how important? I know you've said a little bit about, or we talk about how just the score and the grades is not, but how important is the extracurriculum activities, and
Yeah.
what kind actually expresses or
Mhm.
impresses admissions, or admission officers like you. What are
Mhm.
these, extra? Because
Yeah.
I hear that, but can you
Yeah.
pinpoint one or two or three,
Yeah.
other than just this filling the space?
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
can just go do anything and it
Right.
might not. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the first and most important thing I'll say about extracurricular activities, and this is just anything from in-school clubs to volunteering at your church, serving in the choir or in the media or the children's Sunday school.
Hmm.
Whatever you're doing, do it well. And if you can, try to obtain some type of leadership position. And for most of us, doing something well also means that you're spending some time doing it. So you got to learn how to balance studies and your time spent in these extracurricular activities. Now, these extracurricular activities can be pretty much anything, as long as you're showing some type of interest in it and you're spending time in it. Because when you're actually filling out your application, you will say how long you've been doing this activity, like how many years, but also how much time you spend per year doing it. And so, to your question specifically about what extracurriculars like should I do, I always am careful to say, like, it's dependent on like who you are. Because if you say just are doing a sport simply because you think it looks good on a resume, my friend, my brother, my sister, it's not going to look good, because you're just going to say that you're a member of a sport, and there are quite literally millions of other teenagers in the United States that are doing sports. But if you are doing sports, do it well. If you can, join a club league in addition to your school's team. And if you can, try to become a captain. If you can, try to medal at an event or get records. Because athletic recruitment is one way to actually get a straight shot into a lot of these schools, especially in the Ivy League. A lot of people don't know this, but the Ivy League isn't an academic term. It's
Alone.
actually, yeah, it's actually an athletic term. The Ivy League
Yeah.
refers to Division I athletic sports that these 8 schools that
Yeah.
include,
Schools.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dartmouth, Brown, Harvard, Cornell, Columbia, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania. Um, I'm always missing one, and Yale
Yeah.
all have um, all have this opportunity for students to come and play for their sports. And this includes, like, yes, baseball and like basketball and soccer, or football, as we call it, in Ghana. But it also includes very somewhat strange sports, at least to many of us. Things like equestrian sports. If you ever do polo, polo, like the shirt, like that's
Yeah.
actually like a sport.
Hmm.
Or some places have sailing. A lot of places have sailing.
Hmm.
That's huge. Or like field hockey. Um,
What about
and
fishing?
yeah, fishing. Yeah, well, you know, that's if you can do that competitively, yeah, you can
I
improve.
just
Yeah.
scooped that in.
Yeah. If you prepare a very good tilapia, you can maybe impress your admissions officer enough to let you
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Like you
Right.
said,
Yeah.
most of these sports, not in our
Mhm.
community. No, let it go.
Right. Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
because you know why? Because a lot of them are very expensive. A
Hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
them are very, very expensive. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get into a lot of them. But if you can and you can do well at them, do well. But it's more common for African Americans, Black Americans, and even Africans, coming from Ghana to like do more common things like track and field or football.
Yeah.
And those are lower cost, lower barrier to entry. If you excel at those things, you can get yourself an athletic scholarship or
Mhm.
maybe earn yourself as an Ivy League. And in your junior year, you should be pursuing that. So sports, what's one big category, extracurriculars. Another big category are competitions. So these are academic competitions for basically every subject. If you are interested in STEM, if you're really wanting to be a doctor, I'm talking to my applicants and my students who are listening, or parents who are listening who want their kids to become doctors, or chemists or pharmacists. If you really are interested in STEM, you should really look into thinking about and doing some of the top math competitions. So let's think about in subjects. So math, for example, there's the AIME, the Amy math competition. This is like one of the top high school math competitions. The American Invitational Mathematics Examination. It's a test that you take, and it's like high level calculus and very interesting number theory and combinatorics and algebra that you'll have to study for if you want to do well. That's a really cool competition, and if you score well enough on that test, you can get a designation, which is great. But there's
Mhm.
also big competitions in science, like the Olympiads, for example. These are the bio or chem Olympiads, and they're not like Olympiads like the Olympics where you're like running, fishing, swimming, whatever you're doing. It's they're also like tests, but the more tests that you take and that you pass and do well on, you can eventually get from like your county level to your state level to the national level and then the international Olympiads if you do well enough. And you should check out these competitions if you're really interested in like biology or chemistry.
Mhm.
And then the other competitions I always like encourage people to look at are like essay writing competitions or poetry competitions. If you can write and write really well, things like the Joy Peace essay or the John Locke essay competition, these are great opportunities. I myself, when I was in high school, I did a lot of speech and debate,
Mhm.
qualified for nationals a couple times, and I love public speaking and doing congressional debate. That was my event. Um, and oftentimes, your school will have a club dedicated to these type of competitions. There's also like Model United Nations or Model Congress. These are all clubs you can start to get into. More recently, a lot of college applicants have also been taking advantage of leisure activities, things that they're really interested in doing.
Mhm.
Your son might be interested in gaming, and there are a lot of different categories of gaming. You have more like traditional like uh, games that are like what we call FPS, and they're all played on the computer, and some people play them competitively. But this whole category of esports of different types of video games might be somewhere you might excel at, and if you can do well enough in competitions, even at places like chess.com, playing like the competitions there and having high rank, that actually can get you
Mhm.
um, some recognition, and that's something to consider too. Your extracurricular activities don't need to be limited to just trying to be class president and things. But the most important thing that we want to see in terms of what you're doing extracurricular outside of sports is what impact are you having? And people hear this word impact and think, I need to have like a 501c3 nonprofit, or I need to found a Fortune 500 company by the time I'm 16. That's not necessarily the case. It's more so about how are you having an effect in your community? Are you improving people's lives? Are you making things easier for people? Are you helping your friends or your church or your school community do better? And this can be as simple as collecting books to give to kids because, we need more kids reading,
Yep.
or this can be as complex as planning a camp experience for your church, which can be very arduous because I know because I help do that for my church. Or it can be as seemingly simple as visiting a retirement home. and actually just spending time with the seniors there, and having conversations with them, because a lot of them are often lonely because not a lot of people visit them. The
Mm,
whole point of it, though, isn't just to add it to your application. Of course, you're going to add it to your application, but the point of it is to show that you as a person are thinking about other people,
other people
and that
impacted.
important, yeah, and that's impact. That
Mhm.
you care enough about your community to do something to make a difference. That's It sounds very cliche, unfortunately, because we've commoditized it because of how we do college admissions. But if you can do something to make a difference in someone's life, that can be a huge add or boost to your application. And where all this comes together is that in holistic admissions, your essay, your extracurricular activities, your GPA and your test scores, all the information we're going to collect about you and where you're coming from, your high school, helps us understand who you are and where you're coming from. And the most important thing is that you're actually going to make this into a narrative, that it's a story. Every good story has a beginning, middle, and end. And so when you're writing your essay and when you're preparing your application, the question I'm also asking is, does this make sense together? If you have high grades and high SAT scores, that's great. That's the start. That gets you looked at. But then the thing you need to do to make sure that you're getting where you need to be is that you're doing good extracurricular activities and it's motivating you to go and do more and go and study. And what do you want to study? I mean, that's the whole purpose of coming to college. So
Mhm.
you can study something to do something to become someone. And this is where the idea of the liberal arts comes from. Because most of the Ivy League, all the Ivy League schools have some elements of the liberal arts. This idea that by learning from several different subjects, you can become a certain type of person and to become a leader. And that's what all these schools are trying to do. They're trying to produce people who will lead, people who will excel, people who will be at the top of their fields. And so all of this information will come together. Your academics, the data that you're producing from the academics, some research that you're doing, or research that you're doing at labs, or you're emailing people to join their labs, the sports that you're doing, everything is coming together to show that you're interested in something and you want to go and pursue that in college. And so that's generally what your extracurriculars will do in your application.
Thank you, thank you.
Mm.
It looks as if Tony, you got to come again
I
because the
hope
questions
so.
I have
Yeah,
for you, I just
yeah.
asked only three of them, and we're out of time right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so I don't know
Yeah,
your schedule, but it
yeah,
looks as if at least if you can do
yeah,
this once a
mm,
week for,
yeah,
this is the time people are trying to apply and all that. So I think we might need you
yeah,
again. Is this
yeah.
something you can do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
happy to
we'll
come
talk
back
about that.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll talk about that and
yeah,
see where
yeah,
we can, put you so that because I
yeah,
think parents, kids, these students they need you.
yeah.
So, but time is far spent. But I will ask one thing
Mm, mhm,
from your experience, your own experience. Like I said, I know
yeah,
you went
yeah,
to these Ivy League school, one of them, and also
mhm,
recruiting for
mhm,
them. For your experience,
mhm.
can you tell us how you got there? And
Yeah,
in 2 minutes, because this time is gone.
yeah,
And
yeah. Mhm. So, I went to a public high school in New Jersey, and I did speech and debate. I founded our Model UN chapter. I was our class president for a while. I did vice presidency for the whole school, and that was all the leadership I was doing. Plus, I was doing like speech and debate and things. I kept my grades up. I tried to take the hardest classes that I could. And I also spent my summers trying to work for some of the senators and local representatives, both in the New Jersey State Senate and then in the US Congress. That's what I was doing with my time in high school. And so all that set me up to apply as someone who's interested in government to this school. And I scored above the average at my high school of the SAT. And then I did well enough on the interviews and things. but there was a lot of prayer, a lot of devotion, and a lot of like fasting and prayer and spending time in the secret place with God, trying to pray that He will help me get into these places. And that was, I think, the game changer for me. So I would say, in a nutshell, take the hardest classes you can, lead wherever you are, be a leader, and then have an interest and go for it. I think all of you can do amazing things, and you got to show college that you can do that too.
Thank you so much. We will definitely bring you back again. Yeah, we will talk about that and see where we can. We will bring you
Excellent.
because we
Yeah.
need you. You know, and
Yeah.
the questions I wanted to
Mm.
ask you was a lot, but I couldn't even do
Yeah.
four, just three, and we are up.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we do
Mm.
maybe an hour, or we can do series of
Yeah.
30 or 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony,
Hey,
for showing
thank
up.
you for helping me. Thank you for having me, Uncle Patrick. I appreciate it, and I hope to come back soon. All
Sure,
right.
sure. So see you guys and make sure you spend wisely, save intentionally, and be generous. Tony,
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk to you later. Thank you
Uncle
guys.
Patrick, God bless you.
Bye.
Merry Christmas, Sweet Chef.
Yeah.